He has also pledged $200,000 to the Daughters for Life Foundation.
Thank you. I've got a speech written, so I'll be reading the speech. I'm honored to be a part of Daughters for Life. Tonight, I believe, is proof that dreams can come true. I'm here to share with you the story behind our relationship with Dr. Iseldine Abouleish and our involvement in Daughters for Life. Because of my own background, I've always taken an interest in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Our English school recruits students from countries worldwide, and we're blessed to have many international people working here tonight. Many of them are here, including my two partners, Lan and Bernardo. And one of them, Razi, he's Palestinian with Israeli citizenship. And he and I, over the years, have become very close friends and have had many political and cultural discussions. One day, we were talking and he explained to me the story of the Gaza doctor who lost 3 daughters in the Gaza war and wrote a book called I Shall Not Gaze. A week later, I was at the airport on my way to Russia to recruit students, and I saw the book at the airport, so I bought it. I started reading the book on my long flight, and I simply couldn't put it down. The book was fascinating. Firstly, Iseldine described the very complicated history of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict of 1948, the year that Israel was created, in a very human way. Iseldine describes the history very factually, without any bias or criticism. At the same time, he also describes his own life, being born and raised in a refugee camp in Gaza. And as a child and young adult, he saw education as the way forward to overcome his own suffering and as truly a solution to this very complicated conflict. He dreamed of becoming a doctor because he believed that medicine is a bridge to humanity. Ultimately, he became the first Palestinian doctor to receive a work permit to work in an Israeli hospital where he worked as an infertility specialist, helping Israeli mothers deliver babies. He saw medicine as the bridge between Palestinians and Israelis, because when a Palestinian doctor treats an Israeli patient, or the other way around, the doctor and the patient see each other as human beings. It was on my flight back to Canada when I read the last few chapters of his book, where I learned of his very tragic loss of his wife, the mother of his 8 children, and his family's decision to move to Canada, and then the Gaza war that broke out immediately after, which killed 3 of his daughters and his niece. I woke up the next morning early in my home in Toronto with jet lag, having an 8-hour time difference from Russia. It was then that I read the absolute final conclusion of his book, where he explains what he wants to do with the rest of his life in memory of his daughters. He would create a charity called Daughters for Life to educate women in the Middle East. He believes that when women are educated, they will not teach their sons to fight. He also believes that it's time for women to lead. His objective is to bring women with financial hardship and academic achievement to study on scholarships at Canadian universities. It was in this moment I was inspired and I realized I could help. So what did I do? Not noticing the time, I picked up the phone and called Razi, who's here with us tonight. It was 4 a.m. on Sunday morning, and he answered, startled from a deep sleep. I said, Razi, I just finished the book. We've got to get in touch with Dr. Abouleish. He wants to bring Palestinian women to study at university in Canada on scholarships. And ILAC can help. We can help. We can do something. We're the biggest school for international students in Canada. We train students English every year for the purpose of studying in university here in Canada, and so we really can help. We have to get in touch with them. My idea was we could offer all the Palestinian girls free English courses at our school, which with much difficulty and a lot of time, Razi got in touch with Isildine. He was harder to get in touch with than our Prime Minister, I have to say. And we had our first meeting in October 2010, and we offered our support. Since then, we've become very close friends with Isildine, and our commitment to Daughters for Life has increased and grown as we've learned and shared his vision. And as was mentioned today, we're donating $200,000. And this is just the beginning, this is just the start. My own personal relationship with this man, Isildine, has also made me realize something very important, that we can all make big changes in the world if we want to. I have 2 young daughters, and I want them to grow up with a purpose in life. I want to end this speech with a little story that was written by one of our teachers about 10 years ago, and I think it really applies to this evening. At ILAC is our school. Students come from all over the world to learn English and sit in the same classroom. Just as Isildine says, medicine is the bridge to humanity. It is also my belief that studying at ILAC in our great country, Canada, education is also the bridge to humanity. When students come from other countries, sit in the same class, it's magical. They do not see each other through the eyes of their political, historical, or ideological prejudices. They see each other as human beings, and they become friends. The story I'm going to read to you was posted on Facebook about a month ago, and it brought some tears to my eyes. So I'm going to read it to you. Take about 30 seconds. One day, I was teaching a speaking class, and there were a few groups of students around the room discussing different things. It was at the beginning of a course, and people didn't really know each other yet. The students in the class were from many different countries. A girl in one of the groups was talking about how she had recently completed her military service back home in her country of Israel. Some of the students from the other groups were interested in what she was saying and were surprised that the woman had to do military service along with the men. Eventually, one girl said she didn't understand why there was always fighting in the Middle East, and asked the Israeli girl why people in her country want to fight so much. The teacher became worried, I became worried that a world politics argument was about to freak out the class. The Israeli girl became very emotional and loudly said, "We don't want to fight." The rest of the class stopped talking and looked at her, heavy silence. "Everybody thinks we want to fight," she continued, "but we want peace. We don't go to the army because we want to, we go because we have to. We all love peace." Suddenly she stood up and pointed at a guy from Syria. And she said, "I'm supposed to hate you," she said. He seemed frozen in surprise. She said, "But I don't hate you. I love you." And the guy said, "I love you too." Everyone started to laugh, and the Israeli girl said, "Can I hug you?" The Syrian guy stood up and they hugged. It was so cool, the whole class jumped up and started clapping and cheering. Some girls even started to cry. It was totally my greatest ever teaching English moments in my life.